It's noon Friday, April 25th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in live from Seoul. I'm Oh Ju.
Good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom, and you're watching our ongoing coverage of the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. 181 people have now been confirmed dead in the sinking of the ferry, and 121 others, mostly teenagers, remain missing. In waters off Korea's southwestern coast where the accident happened, search operations are now into the 10th day.
Not a single survivor has been found since the ferry capsized last Wednesday morning, but efforts are continuing, with authorities having decided to use a diving bell at the site for the first time later this afternoon. For the latest, we now go live to our Song Ji-san at Pyeongmokgang Harbor, the nearest point of land to the accident site. Ji-san?
Guys, the search and rescue operation continues today, although the conditions may not be as favorable as it has been over the past few days, with the current getting stronger and even rain is in the forecast for the weekend. 22 more bodies have been recovered from underwater, and the death toll now exceeds the number of survivors, standing at 181, with 121 people still missing underwater. And the search rescue goes on, and the rescuers will search within the third floor of the ferry where the cafeteria is, and the fourth floor where the most of the Danwon High School students are located. And the rescue operation will continue with the diving bell, first deployed for the first time, and has departed the port and will soon be deployed at around 3 p.m. this afternoon. And also parents of the missing children will also be there on the barge to watch the operations there. Mark?
And Ji-san, it seems like tensions between the families of the missing and the authorities there involved in the search operations have reached boiling point. How are things looking over there now?
Well, despair turned into anger, and the parents went to protest against the authorities and the government here with their doubts regarding the operations going on at the site. They have sat down with the Minister of the Oceans and Fisheries, as well as the Chief Commissioner of the Coast Guard, questioning whether enough was being done to rescue and search for the missing bodies. They have agreed to deploy more private divers, as parents think there were not enough divers out there to search for the possible survivors and the bodies of their missing children. The parents also requested all information provided on site, and they want real-time information of the ongoing operation from the barge, as well as here in the headquarters of where rescue operations are being operated. And the Maritime Minister, as well as the Chief Commissioner, have agreed to stay on site and assist with the families and direct the operations here, following the requests of the parents that they want them to be on site until the last body of the students is recovered from the ferry. Back to you.
Now, the group memorial altar in Ansan was busy all night long, and it's filling up again on this Friday, with visitors from all walks of life lining up to lay flowers in front of the portraits of the young people who so tragically lost their lives in this terrible disaster.
Yes, we're going to connect live to our Kim Ji-yeon, who is outside the memorial hall. Ji-yeon.
Hello, guys. Inside the hall behind me, 90 portraits of high school students and teachers are displayed. More than 44,000 people have been paying their respects over the past several days now. The whole nation is mourning for the victims.
I know it's very painful for you, but we will be supporting you. I heard you've hardly been eating. Please take care of yourself.
No words will console you, but please know that many people are feeling the pain with you and crying with you. I wish the students will go to heaven and live happily.
So, Jian, for those who didn't have a chance to pay a visit to the memorial yet, when can they go?
Well, this memorial in Ansan is open 24 hours a day, but will be closed in certain times due to maintenance purposes. But they will be open throughout the weekend. There's another group memorial altar in the city of Mokpo, which is a closer to the accident site. And another is held in the city of Ulsan. Memorial altars are set up there at plazas near Dongbu and Bukbu Ulsan metropolitan city. And overseas in Australia, a memorial altar will be set up starting Monday until May 2nd at the Western Croydon Park from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time. More than 58,000 people has also visited the altar online to send their condolences for the deceased high school students and teachers. This was Kim Jeon live at the Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall.
Now, going back to Jindo, the families of those still unaccounted for from the sunken ferry asked search crews to finish search operations by Thursday last night. But as 121 people are still missing, it looks as though the search will take longer.
That's right. The amount of time this is taking has angered many of the family members, and there was a lot of commotion overnight at the Jindo gymnasium where the family members wait for word on the search operations. Let's go over to our Connie Lee at the gym. Connie, how are things there right now?
Hey, Jinju. Well, so far today it has been pretty quiet here as things seem to have settled down from last night. Late yesterday, there was a bit of a commotion here that broke out at the Jindo gymnasium as families of the missing broke out into anger and frustration. They stormed out of the gym and onto a bus that was headed to the Pyeongmokhang Harbor, or the closest area to the sunken ferry site. They went to that area to join the protest there and confront search officials. Family members had asked officials to end search operations by Thursday, but by late yesterday, only about 10 bodies were recovered, with more than 120 still missing. Family members here are basically saying the officials are not doing their best in finding their loved ones underwater.
Yes, and hopes have unfortunately dimmed for finding any survivors now, as the days have turned into more than a week. But family members wanting the bodies of their loved ones, of course, before they decompose too much. How are they holding up at this extremely difficult time?
Well, Mark, I can't really explain what they're going through, but the families here are nearly exhausted just waiting, and they're glued in front of two large screens in the front of the gym. One screen continually shows news from local media, and the other screen shows real-time footage of the search operation going underway at this hour. Now, the family members here, though, are trying not to lose hope. I've been talking with one father who is looking for his 17-year-old son who attended Danwon High School, or the school where most of the ferry passengers were from. Now, I'm going to mention a sad reality here. The father says that from his son's homeroom class of 34 students, only one student has survived. The father is here with his close friends and neighbors, and they all say that they won't leave this gym until his son is found. Reporting live from the Jindo Gymnasium, this has been Connie Lee.
Now, authorities are broadening their investigation into what exactly happened on the day the Sewol-ho ferry capsized and who is responsible for this man-made disaster.
For more, we are joined by Shin Se-min in the studio. So, Se-min, what's the latest? We hear all the crew that survived are in deep legal trouble.
So far, it looks like all crew members that have been rescued, including the captain Lee Jun-seok, will face criminal charges. Now, 11 have allegedly been charged with negligent homicide while violating maritime law, with the remaining 4 under investigation as suspects. Comments made by some of the crew members are causing quite a stir as well. One testified that crew members, including himself, were in a room less than 10 meters away from where the passenger cabins were right before they fled the ship, which clearly suggests that they did not follow standard protocol to help passengers escape.
And questions are mounting regarding their lack of action, as it turns out. But moving on to the cause of this accident, are we getting any closer to finding the exact cause of this accident, how it happened?
Not actually. Well, I can tell you at this point that the investigators are looking into all possibilities at this point. Now, prosecutors are looking into another similar vessel, the Ohamanaho ferry, also owned by the Cheonghaejin Marine Company, the operator of the sunken Sewol-ho, to find possible clues. A number of possible causes have been raised over the past several days, but 3 have emerged as the most probable scenarios as of now. One is that the Sewolho ferry made a sudden right turn as it attempted to do a P-turn, and experts say the helm was turned back again, but the ferry didn't come back to its original position, probably causing operations to freeze momentarily. Now, this is when another factor comes in. The 3,500 tons of freight on board was not secured properly, and this caused all the containers and vehicles in the cargo hold to lift to one side and tilting it even further with the concentrated weight on just one hand. And lastly, there's just also another possibility that renovations made to the ferry to maximize the number of passengers and cargo made it unstable. Now, the advisory panel of 13 experts will meet for the first time, at around 3 p.m. Korea time to figure out what exactly went wrong. Professors, marine and shipping experts, and representatives from the shipping industry will attempt to reconstruct the accident using a mock-up of the ferry.
Okay, Semin, thank you very much for your report, and do keep us updated throughout the day.
We now have our Connie Kim standing by at Korea University Ansan Hospital, where most of the bodies recovered from the Sewolho ferry are transported. Connie, fill us in on the latest.
Right, Jinju. I'm currently standing by at Korea University Ansan Hospital. Today, a total of 24 Danwon High School students have been released to their families early this morning, including the 17-year-old Korean-Russian student whose dream was to become a professional swimmer and swim for the Korean national team. Now, a crisis center in Jindo near the accident site has begun to transfer the bodies by helicopter to this city of Ansan, including the one I'm standing here right now. Now, this cuts the transfer time to less than 2 hours, shortening the original time of about 5. As of now, a total of 137 Danwon High School students and teachers are confirmed to be dead.
Yes, that school absolutely devastated by this disaster, and a bomb threat was received by the hospital. What do we know about that?
Yes, it received a bomb threat note saying that if Korea University Ansan Hospital prevents hospitalized students from visiting the memorial altar, it will come under a bomb attack. Now, more than a dozen notes saying the same thing was found near the hospital, near the subway station here, saying that near the hospital station. Now, the hospital has restricted students receiving medical treatment from going to Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall, where the altar is set up, because doctors worry it could have a negative impact on their recovery. Police are now reviewing CCTV taken from near the subway station, but no bombs or unidentified items have been discovered so far. Meanwhile, Danwon High School students that were scheduled to be released yesterday remain in hospital. The hospital says it's considering whether to release students on the same day upon the request of the parents and students. The hospital says some students may be released as early as today, but I will bring you additional details as we get them. This has been Connie Kim reporting live from Korea University Ansan Hospital.
US President Barack Obama will be arriving in Seoul very shortly for a 2-day visit. This will be his 4th visit to the nation, the most ever for a sitting US president.
From North Korea's recent nuclear threats to South Korea's ferry disaster, our correspondent Chiu Sun walks us through what will top the agenda during his talks with President Park Geun-hye.
Talks this Friday between President Park Geun-hye and U.S. President Barack Obama in Seoul will largely focus on reaffirming their security alliance on the Korean peninsula.
North Korea-related issues, including the North's recent threats to conduct a nuclear test, will be discussed. Strategic talks on the state of affairs in Northeast Asia will also take place.
Since their meeting last month on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit in the Netherlands, Pyongyang has threatened to carry out what it called a new form of nuclear test. President Obama is expected to express support for President Park's vision on reunification of the two Koreas. In a speech in Dresden last month, the South Korean leader called for the two Koreas to expand reunions of families separated by the Korean War and increase cross-border economic and cultural exchanges. On the economic front, the two presidents will likely discuss Seoul's possible membership into the Washington-led Trans-Pacific Trade Pact. There's also tension towards what President Obama might say concerning strained Seoul-Tokyo ties over Japan's repeated denials of its imperialistic aggressions. This, especially after he said Japan's disputed islands with China were subject to Washington's defense treaty with Tokyo following talks with his Japanese counterpart Thursday. Reflecting strong Seoul-Washington relations, the U.S. leader will also return 9 Korean royal seals that were lost during the Korean War. And as South Koreans mourn the loss of so many lives in a recent ferry disaster, President Obama is set to express his sympathies during his 2-day visit. After a meeting with Korean and American business leaders and visiting U.S. forces in Korea, Obama will depart for Malaysia on Saturday. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
With speculation building about a possible 4th nuclear test by Pyongyang, a pro-North Korea newspaper in Japan has condemned the South for even mentioning the possibility.
Ironically, though, that could be a sign that another nuclear test is actually in the works. Our Kim Yeon-bin explains.
The Chosun Shinbo, pro-North Korea newspaper based in Japan, accused South Korea on Thursday of spreading false rumors about the possibility of a 4th North Korean nuclear test. The editorial claims Seoul was raising speculation about a test to divert attention away from the Sewol-ho ferry tragedy, calling it a major insult to the North. Such comments are nothing new and could indicate that Pyongyang is actually gearing up for another test. 4 days before Pyongyang's 3rd nuclear test last year, the North Korean regime condemned Seoul and Washington in a similar fashion, just as they did in 2009, before a second one.
It is possible that North Korea is playing psychological games with the South. We are keeping a close eye on the North as they could conduct another nuclear test.
Some North Korean experts believe it's unlikely that Pyongyang will conduct a 4th nuclear test in the coming days or weeks, as recent events don't follow the complete patterns seen in the past. The regime typically launches intercontinental ballistic missiles or rockets prior to nuclear tests, which hasn't happened. But the Korean government says it's prepared for the possibility, with a number of significant events taking place in the coming days, including U.S. President Barack Obama's presence in the region and the anniversary of the establishment of the North Korean People's Army. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
The former U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy has suggested linking North Korea into a global economic network as one of the ways to stop its ongoing nuclear development. Speaking at a seminar hosted by the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington on Thursday, Stephen Bosworth said inviting the North into the network could remove it from isolation and perhaps persuade it to take a new path. The former envoy stressed the window of opportunity is still open to denuclearize the North. He also called on the international community to take action, especially over concerns North Korea could export nuclear materials to other countries.
And on the nation's economic front, the first quarter numbers for Hyundai Motor are in, and it was a mixed bag of sorts.
However, analysts say the outlook for Korea's largest automaker is generally bright, especially with new models being released soon. Our Kwon So-ah has the details.
Hyundai Motor's first quarter earnings showed mixed results, but the outlook is generally positive. The automaker's operating profit rose 3.7% compared to the same period last year to around $1.8 billion, with sales rising 1.9% to roughly $20 billion. However, net profit dropped 2.9% on year. Hyundai Securities says first quarter earnings fell short of expectations, but there is no to worry. It says a series of one-off factors like the strong local currency and the rise in sales expenses due to the reduction of old models attributed to the lower figures. Although earnings aren't expected to pick up that much in the short term, the future is looking bright with a line of new models set for release. The automaker forecasts its Genesis and the 7th generation Sonata will help boost sales in the coming months. Analysts say Hyundai should start shifting more vehicles in the second quarter. They also forecast exports to rise by nearly 7%, which could push production at Hyundai past the 5 million car mark this year for the first time ever. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Korean consumer sentiment remains strong this month as the economy continues its moderate pace of recovery. The Bank of Korea says the nation's consumer sentiment index came in at 108 for April, unchanged from the previous month. The index is an indicator of consumers' outlook on the economy, living conditions and future spending, with a reading above 100, meaning optimists outnumber pessimists. The central bank said the figure could dip next month, though, because of the ferry disaster.
Turning next to escalating tensions over Ukraine, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry lobbed his most direct indictment yet, saying Russia was stoking the very instability that it says it wants to extinguish. He underlined what he called two opposite responses since the Geneva deal was reached last week. Kerry said that Ukraine upheld it while Russia that took not a single step to de-escalate tensions. Take a listen.
Following today's threatening movement of Russian troops right up to Ukraine's border, let me be clear. If Russia continues in this direction, it will not just be a grave mistake, it will be an expensive mistake.
Secretary Kerry issued the warning out of the State Department's briefing room late Thursday, and as U.S. President Barack Obama from Japan said new sanctions were, quote, teed up. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin had warned of consequences should Kiev use force against its own people. Deadly clashes erupted on the ground in eastern Ukraine, with as many as 5 pro-Russian rebels reportedly killed by Kiev's forces. Moscow responded to the violence by launching new military drills along its border with Ukraine.
Let's get a weather update for Jindo and around the country. The neap tides period at the site of the Sewol-ho ferry accident ended yesterday, so it seems like things will take a turn. The waves and winds will get stronger and things will get even more difficult as we have heavy rain and gusty winds in the forecast at the accident site over the weekend. Now, that being said, there are 2 more opportunities during the day when the currents will get weaker. One is at 5:35 and the other at 11:10 tonight. The speed of flow should slow it down 1 hour before and 1 after these indicated times. And including Jindo, the country should continue to have early summer-like conditions. In fact, it will be warmer than yesterday, but at the same time, the air will remain quite dry with dry weather advisory in effect in most parts of the country. So please do keep that in mind, and let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul and Gwangju, that is, will hike up to 27 and Daegu will soar to 28, while Busan tops out at 23 under lots of sunshine. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju will hike up to 24. Daejeon should see a high of 28 and Dokdo peaks at 20, while Mount Kumgang should see a high of 19 this afternoon. Well, that's all I have for you today, but Arirang's Weather Center will bring you the latest weather updates throughout the day.
Thank you very much, Gian. And those are the latest updates we have for you at this hour on the ferry disaster. Stay tuned to Arirang as we continue to bring you the latest on the search and rescue efforts.
Mark and I'll be back at the same time next Monday. Thank you for watching.